Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here with you. Thanks to my colleagues who are here and will talk about a very relevant topic. I believe we're living in a great different moment regarding cybersecurity. First, because of artificial intelligence, the analysis capacity and automated responses changing, is improving. And banks are trying to protect against threats. At the same time, all this is happening, we have regulations such as DORA in Europe, which brings a model of operational resilience, and this is putting the financial institutions to look for new models to resist those threats and recover from cyber attacks. And finally, digital sovereignty is increasing in Brazil, and it brings us topics such as technological infrastructure and especially algorithms. So how can we deal with those conformity topics without losing our security, and how to establish those models from governance to technology? How can we translate all this? So I brought those leaders in the segment, my colleagues, and the idea is to talk about those three topics: artificial intelligence, operative resilience, and digital sovereignty, which is a very important topic. But the most important thing is how to design the future based on those three topics. How can we deal with that in our institutions to guarantee that we will design this cybernetic future and especially developing our talents? So start with Luciano with a question. Luciano is the best person to answer. How do artificial intelligence is designing the way banks are working now? This is happening so fast. We talk about I have to be more immediatist. So what do you think about it? Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here one more time. Thanks for the invitation. AI is bringing very many benefits for cybersecurity. We are more proactive. We are predicting things. SOC is one of the most used in banks, such as Bradesco and Itaú. Usually, it's an environment very complex. Now with the cloud, multi-cloud, we are everywhere, and there is a lot of data to analyze day to day. So AI is helping SOC to process this information, to analyze them, to classify incidents and risks. People who work with SOCs know how hard it is. There are alerts every time, and how to distinguish threats and potential threats. AI is helping our team to improve the efficiency facing possible threats. Another team is the red team with new technology, and the simulations are being more effective and realistic. People who work with cyber intelligence have many different information sources. And how do you analyze all these and generate a report? Generative AI, through their prompt, is helping us to do that, so we can evaluate faster the reports, help the operation team. Today, I would say that it's impossible to manage a bank such as Bradesco without that support. So AI is essential. Today, with the amount of information we have, the users we have, it's impossible to treat all this information without AI tools. You have mentioned something important. We are living a moment of transformation, especially SOC, Security Operations Center. The traditional SOC send the data, relay to other information, and near real time. When I bring AI to my environment, things happen so much faster. So how do you see, Marco, that? Well, first of all, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Luciano said that when we see SOC infrastructure, when we used to create rules, we would base on static context, based on not the knowledge we used to have. We would put those things to run. But nowadays we put an intelligence, and I need the tool to tell me something I still don't know. The tool doesn't have to tell me what I already know. This is what we used to do, right? So it's not a matter of automation. To use AR is not to automatize, is to bring me information to see things that I couldn't see before. How long does it take to create a playbook, a SOC? This is what AR will help us. If we have a certain process, the assertivity will be better, which will bring better answers and the time to give an answer. And we get to do it faster because of those tools, not only in banks, and we all gain a lot from it. So the process we're used to use without AI were completely different.
You talked about tasks that make the operations faster in the safety environment. The intelligent agents have this role. If you observe internet, you see there is a big set of solutions. There is a group talking about SOC, virtual operation center. They take their own decision, distributing agents. Whenever we talk about SOCs, there was that need. I need to have an assessment because we have a shadow out or a new component in. With AI now, we do not know what people are doing. And we see a need of raising the awareness because we start using it so fast. But what are they doing there in the other end? And we see this topic that is more and more relevant, DORA in Europe, bringing a model that is operational resilience model with more robustness. So we are having a model adjusting. Brazil is moving towards this direction. But João, I believe there is a point here. How can we adjust compliance and all these aspects, regulatory aspect? How can we ensure innovation during the transformation? Let's try to think about the person who's using it. ChatGPT there in the other end. What will happen with us in our chair, in the business? What is your point of view about it? Do not forget that the challenge is still present. We still have that business story to follow. Good afternoon. Thank you for this invitation. I feel this big resistance on the use of these models, of these frameworks. Of course, we are here present talking about three institutions, financial institutions. That's very easy because we are in a regulated market. When we talk about regulation, Bacen, SUSEP, and now with the use DORA, and I believe we joked about it, saying that we are going to see Neuza, a Brazilian version of DORA. We are talking about this like GDPR. But I feel that Brazil is getting ready. The institutions are getting ready. And the impact is not so big in our end. Of course, we still have organizations that do not have. What I see, I hear, I talk to some executives, they face difficulty implementing GDPR since 2018. We are talking about 5 years now, 7 years of the enforcement, and companies facing difficulty, let alone now DORA with this robustness even higher than what we already have. But I feel that this will bring more concern for these decisive role security CEOs. What we see, João, aligned to what your topic, GDPR and difficulties, we see niche frameworks being more relevant. So we have a reverse use because niche launched their framework for AI governance. The companies are starting using their framework, but wait up, I'm not mature enough of niche 800. How can I match the technological base, the level of maturity that I have in order to absorb this modeling of generative AI? So what we see, observing the spectrum of regulation up to technology use to control security in AI, there is an initial assessment that is not favorable for the security. And DPO, we are going to talk about digital sovereignty, but this use is very punctual. And I think that regulations such as DORA will bring a new framework, a new model of use that is regulated and will transform the practice of technology use. And it's a new tripod: regulation, technological practice, and the adjustment of business. This is very new in Brazil. We have some companies that use these more frequently, but there is also this great concern of raising the awareness of the end users. When we are in this operational rule, when we think about robust model, we forget about 2 points. People that are using the technology and these new engines of artificial intelligence, and the person who is in our team trying to defend and attack, so we can bring this model of maturity into our daily activities. And I think that within all this context, we are leaving aside the digital sovereignty. There are three important points, in my opinion. Data automation, how much information we are managing, infrastructure of this technology. This is critical. And in my opinion, especially the algorithms running behind this operation. This topic is more and more relevant. We hear sovereign cloud. I was joking with Marco. Is data center coming back? So we start discussing this, and it's very interesting to have this conversation because you get your switch and your router out of the cabinet to bring this model that is more protectionist to the IT context. What do you think, Marcos? First, we have to read the decisions. I want to use AI. I want to do things in SAS, in SaaS. This sovereignty aspect, we have to read our zip code. Brazil is a very big country representing the geography. It's not to consider. We need to understand where data is going to be processed, where we are placing information, because data is money. Data is information. Data is the generator of value and information and benefit for the companies. So when we take a decision to use data to be processed, to choose a provider, we have to choose and deep dive in details of data processing. How is it processing? A vision that I learned when I was a consultant, and this guides me when I have to analyze something. I am part of architecture in the bank as well. We need a data flow. We need governance of data to understand what type of data, what type of information is getting out. This will guide the control that you need to put in place, what kind of federation of controls that you need to have in order to have the proper observability, to choose the algorithms that you need to implement, the token system, anonymization, BioQ that you need to take and choose the providers. Everything is connected to a governance system of this information. It's not because the data is processed externally that we are not responsible for this data. The client, the owner of the information, at the end of the day, trusts us with this data. So we have to take good care of it. When you see the provider chain, you start with, yes, in geolocalization, you understand how is this going to be communicated and processed. You have to think about a problem, a bug of this provider. This has to be considered in order to measure this implementation and how you choose a provider.
But Marco, there is a point, which is when we are operating security, we have to take a look at the technology. We know that there is a bunch of data in transit, and we worry about that, but we never think about what you said, where this data goes, not where the information is, but who is starting this process. Because when we start, if I don't know where data is going through, is a huge problem. And now, at this time of artificial intelligence, how do I bring that traditional vision of data classification? We did that at the GDPR, but at the beginning of this talk, we talked about SOC, Security Operations Center. So if I have a crisis, can I answer quickly with AI? But there is another point here, the AI governance. Many companies today adopt it without any control. You can do anything. Some companies couldn't allow everything, put some boundaries, limits, but today there are no many institutions with all that regulated. If you take a look at how many AIs are being used in your company, you get scared because you have no control over that. Sometimes we don't even know that there is an IA behind that. 2 years ago, the problem was WhatsApp web. Everybody used to say, who opened WhatsApp web? Now the problem is artificial intelligence. So it's very complicated. It's very hard to keep the resilience. And now we have the quantum computation. This is another topic that can affect the digital sovereignty, because there is the concept of harvest now and decipher later. Many things must have happened, and data that escape from companies, and they don't know. We have to see the age of each data, because if the problem was last year, if you don't have the data, the complete data map, you have a problem. You have to use it every day. I was reading a book the other day where it says Potaking slot, and I was wondering, what is that? You need to observe this flow pattern, because sometimes the laws don't bring the correct adequation for your security environment. So there's a lot of legal stuff and we don't understand, but sometimes you have to bring the model, a more robust model, to adopt the correct technology. And we go back to digital sovereignty. You have to think, how should I start? We have to do the basics correctly, because now AI is here. If you look around, there are a lot of companies with different models to adopt. You can do things very fast in our daily lives, but what you said, João, each day we have a new thing. So we should adopt a governance model that brings to the teams strategy, a clear strategy. What do you think, Luciano? Should we change things? João talked about governance, and we are talking about AI insecurity, but we forget that cybersecurity for AI, you have to see if the models are new, you have to have the maps. So people talk about AI for security, but you need to have cybersecurity. The teams should pay more attention on how to protect their systems, their infos. For the ones who had the opportunity to go to RSA, this looks like a toy store. Everybody wants all the toys. 50% of people say AI will attack, and 50% will say that AI will defend. But some things do not show at RSA. Innovation. We shouldn't forget that AI is available. How can we protect our data? Nowadays, you get frameworks, MITRE, for example, and you observe problems in LLM. If we have an attack, before I was worried about the script kits, but now they are advanced. They can attack heavily. So if you think about an AI with a phishing campaign, they are so sophisticated in this attack. Marco, nowadays we are prepared to recover from an attack. What's your opinion? Well, we are never prepared. We accommodate sometimes, but we are talking about banks. And in Brazil, this is one of the segments that invest the most in AI. So they understand that financial sector is very advanced in cybersecurity. I believe that preparation is the test that we make and simulations. We have to follow the data. As you said before, we have to do the basics properly. If they do that, they will be able to recover from an attack. And then there are different frameworks that help you to accelerate this process.
That's not how you protect, it's how you respond. You talk about RSA. Last year, if you went there, you saw the consolidation of cybersecurity, consolidation in platforms. It was clear in your toy store that you like to name it so frequently. This year, we saw a transformation. This is a different effect. We see an ecosystem of AI adjusting to your environment, but I did not see anything on governance. Nobody was doing the basic, using a framework, placing awareness, whatever the industry, not only financial industry, training the end users for what's coming up. It's new, everything is new. Luciano, in the end, it's not only our end users. We have our teams. How are they getting ready for that? As João said, WhatsApp, web, it's over. We have solutions, but how can we see our team in this world, what they are doing? Everything has a maturity curve, a learning curve. We are daily bombarded of new solutions, Gen AI. So training is essential, raising awareness, internal campaigns, events. It's hard to keep the team update. Preparation. We are prepared today, but not tomorrow. Things evolve, transform. It's a different thing tomorrow. It's very hard to be up to date all the time. So raising the awareness and use the tools, experiment is essential. I have a piece of comment that is very fast. Companies think that the manager of iOS, I'm not judging the title, think that we are iOS GPT. We know everything, all the questions come and we must know all the answers. We do not know all the answers. We check GPT ourselves as well. GPT is very useful. You cannot blindly trust it. You have to assess and search other sources of information as a support. We have run out of time. The time flew. Thank you so much for your attention, for your participation. If you want to keep on having this conversation, Logicar booth is next door. We are going to be pleased to see you there. We have different topics to discuss. We can talk longer hours. Thank you so much for your attendance, sharing this relevant topic. Thank you. My pleasure.